How's it going? Thank you so much for tuning in today. We really appreciate it. We're back in the States, and we just wrapped up our 27 months on the road, 800 days traveling around the world, 35 countries, over 100 cities, and now we're back in Indianapolis, Indiana, and we've been jumping around the U.S. a bunch, saying hello to friends and family, and very soon, we'll get into some sort of flow, and then we'll be able to share more about our transition back to the States and off the road with you at some point. Today, we wanted to wrap up our journey, to document our journey around the world with the South Island of New Zealand, where we spent time in Christchurch, Queenstown, Dunedin, and a few small towns in between. We want to make sure that we got that information out there to you. So if you're planning that trip to the South Island, maybe we can give you some tips and things to see. It's a great, epic journey, and we just want to make sure that we shared that. If you're just getting caught up with us, this is the first time you heard us, or maybe you've heard us once or twice, me and my wife, Nikki, are a traveling couple that had traveled. We set out and we did it. We traveled from February of 2017 through May of 2019, full-time out of a backpack apiece. And this is our chance to document our journey on this podcast. And we also share it on our website, passportjoy.com, in the hopes that we can make your traveling easier, whether it's a weekend getaway, week-long vacation, or if you're planning to do something like New Zealand where you're going to spend 2 or 3 weeks down there. Maybe take our ideas, build on your own, and have an epic journey, because we love travel. We love what it's done to our lives, and it's something we want to share with you. We're not expert travelers in any way, but we did learn a ton on our journey and our travels before that. And the hope is that we can share with you some of that, so you can have a great trip on your own. All right. You can find a lot of the show notes from this episode and all the episodes at passportjoy.com under the podcast tab. You just go there and find the episode and the information you're looking for. And we have a lot of links there built in. So please do that for this episode as well. There's a journey so far tab on the website that shows month by month, country by country, all the places we've been to. So if it's not New Zealand, or if it's another place like New Zealand, like Vietnam or South Africa, India, all the different places we've been around the world, you can just click on there, just look at the links, and we'll have a bunch of different things that we share about our journeys around the world. Nikki has a book. It's called Passport Joy, Reflections on Life, Love, and Other Stuff While Traveling the World. It's her memoirs prior to the journey, and then the things that she went through on the journey. And it's a great way to get an insight in her, the things that she went through. And it's fun, it's insightful, and it's a great read. Check that out on Amazon. For your Kindle, or if you get a Kindle app, it's real easy to navigate. Please look that up, and then also leave a comment if it's something you enjoyed. The World Barbershop Adventures will continue. This is my time in the chairs, the barber chairs around the world, getting the cuts, and just sharing that story it's kind of the visual aspect of what we went through. And I'm going to keep doing it. We just finished up an episode in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, going to air that soon. New Zealand is already out there. So if you hear this, you want to see the beauty. If you hear this episode and you're like, I want to see the beauty of what they're talking about here, the World Barbershop Adventures Queenstown, New Zealand edition is out. It was an awesome time at Gents Barbershop, and you can see all the different trails and the lakes and mountains and views. It's gorgeous. It really is. And that is it. Please continue to subscribe, rate, and review if you can. We really appreciate it. It just helps us get in front of new traveler listeners out there that might be looking for places to travel to. We're going to keep traveling. We love travel. It is deep in our soul. It's something that we love to do. We're going to keep at it, and we're going to keep sharing those experiences with you in the hopes that if we go somewhere that matches up with something you're looking at your bucket list, maybe you can hear that. We can give you some ideas. So we're going to continue to do that. And I'm going to send out briefly weekly emails. You go to passportjoy.com. You can sign up for free and put your email in there, and I'll send you travel insight and also other snippets of things that we're going through along the way. All right, let's get into this episode. All right, so we started to the South Island from the north. As we wrapped up our time in the North Island in Wellington, we caught a flight. It's a short, about 50-minute flight to Christchurch. And so we had that flight, arrived in Christchurch, and then we spent the next almost 2 weeks in the South Island. The places we're going to talk about is Christchurch, Tekapo, Lake Wanaka, Queenstown, Ranfurly, and then Dunedin is where we wrapped up. So we arrived in Christchurch off the plane, and quite honestly, I was a little underwhelmed because it was the largest city on the South Island. So we just expected that it'd be larger, but it was just like this quaint little town. It was small, much smaller than we expected. But that said, we were underwhelmed by the fact of the size, but then it ended up being, it was nice. It was some nice things to do there. And so we ended up trying to make the most of it. We stayed at a small Airbnb with an amazing host named Ali, and she had like a little side room that we stayed in with her. And she's born and raised Christchurch and knew a lot about the area. So she gave us a lot of insight. But mostly within Christchurch, we went to this New Brighton Pier, which is this long, gorgeous pier that has a lot of grocery stores around it. A lot of shops and other stores around it. And so we took advantage of that, just walked around that area and then walked along the pier and checked those things out. And then we also took in the Botanical Gardens while we were in Christchurch. Those are gorgeous, big, it's peaceful, a lot of grassy areas just to hang out and sightsee a little bit. And a lot of people take advantage of it. And it was actually near where they had this makeshift memorial for the victims of the recent tragedy that happened at one of the mosques there. And we drove by that mosque on a separate day as well. And then went to an art gallery while we were in Christchurch and really just chilled out a little bit and kind of took it in because there wasn't a great deal to do in the city itself. And then, that was it. And then we made our way. And the whole idea, everything that we heard about the South Island was all the beauty and everything, the expectation of the nature and just the rolling hills and the mountains and all the gorgeous landscape. And a lot of that began once we left on our journey out of Christchurch to go see the other parts of the South Island. The next stop there was Tekapo, Lake Tekapo, which is this gorgeous, huge lake that sits between all these different mountains. You can see the Southern Alps on a clear day with snow caps, and it is a tourist attraction for sure because there's all kinds of shops and restaurants right up against the lake, but there's also plenty of space to just take it all in and get great epic photos because there's this cute little church called Church of Good Shepherd that sits right near the lake that they actually they have mass and whatnot. A lot of buses stop there with a lot of people taking photos, and it's just it's one of those memorable places that everybody wants to see. So we stayed one night there, took all that in, and then it's also a great place to see the stars for stargazing. So it's part of the Mackenzie International Dark Sky Reserve, and it's one of the best places in the world to stargaze. And with our Airbnb that we stayed at, it was more of a backpacker's place. The way it wasn't a traditional Airbnb that we stay in, but it's more like not necessarily a hostel, but is a makeshift backpacker hotel, if you will. Real easy to stay in. A little bit more costly than we were used to, but it was a great location with a lot of other travelers there. But they gave us, and that place was called Tailor Made Tekapo Backpackers. I'll make sure I have the links to all this stuff in the show notes, but they had a nice private room with shared bathrooms. But the cool thing was they told us that if we just walked up the hill to the golf course, we could see the stars there. So we did that. And later that night, we just hung out and stargazed. Even though it was pretty chilly, we did take them in for about 20 minutes or so. And the clearest of skies. It was comparable to when we stargazed in San Pedro de Atacama. And it's San Pedro de Atacama is one of the clearest places in the world to see it, and it was comparable to that. And it was nice. It was clear. It was beautiful. It was and there was nobody up there. Surprisingly, I thought there'd be at least some other people up there stargazing at the time, but I guess nobody else knew about this golf course location. And there's a lot of different tours you can do with professionals in the area that can take you and probably point things out to stargaze. But we ended up just taking it in. Lake Tekapo is really nice. Definitely a stop you want to make on your southern island trip, and it's just gorgeous, and it really sets the stage for all the beauty that is on the South Island. So from there, that next morning we woke up and had gotten a tip from I think we got it from a flight attendant on our flight into New Zealand, and she said that you definitely want to hit Lake Wanaka on the drive in to Queenstown. And it's a little bit out of the way, but not much, like 45 minutes on a drive. And to back up, we rented a car for this entire journey on the South Island, and Nikki drove the entire time. It's, again, on the South Island, you drive on the opposite side that you're used to in America. So you're driving on the left-hand side and the steering wheel's on the right-hand side. But Nikki navigated it greatly, and it didn't seem to be that much of an issue. And there's not as much traffic as you're probably used to in the U.S. or in other locations, because there's just not a lot of people in New Zealand, with a population of less than about 6 million on the entire country. And most of that in the North Island, there's not that many people in the South Island except for tourists. So, but you definitely got to be, you got to be cautious of other tourists that aren't very good drivers. You do see a lot of the big buses for tour guides. And then also there's a lot of police out. So you want to be aware just to make sure you follow the signs correctly and do everything the right way. But yeah, so then we stopped at the Lake Wanaka. That's a great place for us, it was just a great stop to, again, take in the shops. A lot of these locations have great shops and restaurants and kind of higher end stores, and a lot of things to do in the day. And then just the natural beauty of it all. And in that case, there was this tree that sits in the lake. So it's one of these epic photo opportunities where the tree is about 20 yards off the coast or off the beach of the lake side. And it's just a really cool photo with all the mountains surrounding it. So we took that in at Lake Wanaka and then continued to head south to Queenstown, which everybody we talked to, that was the highlight of the New Zealand journey. It's definitely somewhere you want to go. So we ended up spending 4 nights there. That was the plan, to stay 4 nights. And we stayed in this awesome little backpackers lodge called Aspen Lodge Backpackers. It was great because it had a queen size bed. It had our own room with our own bath and a free parking. So that was great. And it wasn't that far outside of town. It was an easy walk in. And it was right next to this park as well. So we really enjoyed our time staying there. And then we did everything you're supposed to do. The weather wasn't great the entire time, so it did cut into our ability to hike and get around every day. But we did definitely went to the Queenstown Hill, which is about a 3-hour hike up and down with these amazing 360-degree views. There's a Basket of Dreams sculpture there, which is really cool, that overlooks the city. And it's a steep hike, if you will, but I wouldn't say difficult. It just the steepness of it can take your breath away a little bit. But once you get up to, I guess, the first point, it's pretty cool to be able to go to the different areas to see the different angles around Queenstown. And there's a lot of people on that hike. You'll pass by a lot of people depending upon the time of the year you do it. And then there's also the Queenstown Gardens, which is down, I guess, if you're facing the lake Wakatipu, you will, on the left-hand side of the lake is where the gardens are. And it's real easy it's a nice place to just picnic and relax and chill, and gorgeous trees. We were there in their fall or their autumn, and the trees were all changing colors. So there's a lot of opportunity to take some cool photos there and just relax and take it all in. And then tons of food options. They have a strong, like, Vietnamese, Thai, a lot of like vegan options, and farm to table, and sports bars. They really had everything. Japanese restaurants, and great places for nightlife as well. So that Queenstown does have it all, between the natural beauty and the great places to go out and check things out, and just to walk around and get to know the town a little bit. And they also have grocery stores. You can just go by and pick some stuff up if that's more of your thing as well. And then I have to mention Ferg Burger, because the lines every day were tremendous. I never got my Ferg Burger because the lines were just too crazy long, and I didn't see it being necessary to wait for an hour for a burger. But everybody that did, they talk about it often. They say it's one of the best burgers in the world. So if you have the time, or you can just get there early where the line's not long, definitely might want to check out Ferg Burger. Another cool thing we had an opportunity to do was to go to the Arrowstown Festival, which is right around the corner. It's about a 25-minute ride. It was just a town close to Queenstown. And it's a festival that happens once a year in late April, and just a bunch of small little pop-up shops and local vendors selling their different goods. And also they had parades going on. And then this acrobatic airplane as well. So it was just small town stuff like that. It appears to go on around Queenstown on a regular basis. So you can always ask around and see what's happening. and a 25 to 30 minute drive, because if you do rent a car, I highly recommend renting a car because there's so much to see around this area. And we even ended up finding things like this local lake that wasn't too far away that had amazing and gorgeous views and angles, and awesome and nice hikes as well. So you can do that all within 25, 30 minutes, just right around the lake. And it's real easy to do. From there, we wrapped up and we were on our way to Dunedin to end the trip, but we had an extra day in there. So we ended up we stopped in a small town called Ranfurly and stayed at the Houghton Lodge. And it was really peaceful, tiny town. It's probably like a town of like, I don't even know, like 2,000 people or something. But the drive there and then the drive after that was amazing because there's goats everywhere. It's very scenic, hilly mountains. And really, this part of the island is kind of like central south. There's nobody on the road. So we would only pass another car or get past every once an hour or 45 minutes or so. So you can make a lot of stops and just get those photos in that you want to get. And it's not a big deal. But that little town was a nice little stop along the way, Ranfurly, because they had one little grocery store, a couple of restaurants, and it was just a peaceful little stop. And that place ended up being extremely nice. The lady that opened it had a farm locally, and they decided they wanted to have their own, I guess, little hotel in the town as well. And they're doing a great job with that place because it was one of our best stays on the South Island. And then from there, we ended up in Dunedin, which is it's the second largest city on the South Island, which only means it's about 130,000 people. And we stayed with two friends, Mike and Heidi from the States. Well, they're American, but lived in Australia for about 20 years. Now they live in New Zealand. And just to be able to catch up with them, understand about their family and some of the changes they're going through in New Zealand, because they just recently moved there. It was really cool to hear that, and then get a chance to understand Dunedin a little bit better, because it's a university town and much of their population comes from the university, whether it's the students or the staff of the university. So it was cool. But Dunedin's absolutely gorgeous, and that drive into Dunedin is scenic as well, because the coastline is gorgeous as you begin to catch because it is a southern coastal on the east coast of the island city, and there's just so much to see along as you drive in. So. And then from there, we really we wrapped up our time in Dunedin and then jumped a quick flight to Auckland, and then we were off to the U.S. We only stayed about, I don't know, like maybe 14 hours in Auckland before we headed up to the States, and that wrapped up our time. So I guess in all, I mean, I feel super blessed that we had a chance to wrap up our journey in New Zealand because of all the beauty that it possesses. And people ask us about our travels, like what's the most beautiful or most memorable, what do we like the best? And for me, from a natural beauty standpoint, New Zealand is definitely the spot. It's just so unique, and the fact that there's not that many people there, and just everything about it just really stood out, and I really enjoyed it. And it was just it's a great stay and place that I highly recommend people. If you're into nature, you like to do hikes, and you like to do adventure, you like to travel adventurally, then it is a place you'll want to consider and put high on your list, because it's a lot of fun. So look for the show notes, as I'll put a lot of the locations that we stayed at and some things you need to consider, and hopefully you'll enjoy your stay in New Zealand as well. And that is it for this episode. Again, thank you so much for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed it. And thanks for all those that have followed along on the entire journey around the world, 800 days around the world. And we're going to keep sharing. So please subscribe, rate, and review the podcast when you have time. That really helps us. And continue to tune in as we talk about the transition phase now and all the things that we'll be going through in the future. It might be something you want to listen to help you in case you're thinking about doing some long-term travel like we are, or if you're just interested on the dynamics of how travel shifts our mentality going forward. As always, I list out all the important links from today's show from the Southern Island, New Zealand, and the podcast tab at passportjoy.com under the episode listing. Everything there from the different links and everything that I mentioned makes it easy for you to navigate in case there's something on that list that you think sounded cool. Sign up for the weekly newsletter at passportjoy.com. This goes out on Thursdays. It gives you insights, travel tips, and tools, and other things that might be helpful for you in your journey. And check out Nikki's book. Again, Passport Joy, Reflections on Life, Love, and Other Stuff While Traveling the World. Check that out on Amazon. Just search it there. Watch for the World Barbershop Adventure episodes on YouTube. Subscribe to my YouTube page. That's the easiest way to get those. The New Zealand episode is now live, and it's really cool. The guys at Gents Barbershop, Gary at Gents Barbershop is amazing. You'll love his tattoos and his entire style. The dude just has so much style. And that is it. We will be back to you soon with another episode. Until then, safe travels wherever you might be heading next.